Well, I just want to dive in a bit more with Only Fools. So obviously it was such a wonderful episode on the screen. Did it jump out at you in the script in the same way?
Only Fools?
Yeah.
Oh yes, because I knew of Harrison's watch. Because there was a film with Michael Gambon. He played Harrison, didn't he, in a television thing, which was marvellous. Now they know there was one which is in Greenwich, and they know there was another one that might have been blown up in the Blitz. And I knew that, and the scripts were, oh God, were so fantastic, I think. Not right at the very beginning, because as you know, it was in the Times the other day. I didn't know this. When Only Fools and Horses went out, they didn't get very good notices. One or two people said, oh, and they shelved it after it was done. There was a strike on about a year and a bit later. So somebody thought, oh, we'll send all Only Fools and Horses out. And if that hadn't been done, you never know, it might never have been successful. They might never have done any more. Because they shelved it and then brought it out because of the strike. So the strike actually made it. It's like Dad's Army, a lot of people don't. Who wants to know about a lot of old gentlemen who are, and it's like the Goon Show. There was one producer, and this is absolutely true, was overheard to say, because Smiley Milligan told me this, he said, some producer said, what is this go-on show about? Go on.
That's Father Ted, isn't it? With Only Fools, you'd also worked with David Jayston on The Darling Buds of May. Were you friends? Did you know him a bit?
I worked with David Jayston on The Darling Buds of May, and of course a bit of a do.
Oh yes, of course.
Which, well, don't get me wrong, I like David a lot, and he put me up for a part which perhaps you might have seen called Albert's Memorial with David Warner. And but Darling Buds of May there again. I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones, one of my sons was 13 or 14 at the time, introduced her. She gave him a kiss, and he was going around school saying, Catherine Zeta-Jones kissed me. Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure she did, sure she did.
And she was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, she was a lovely, lovely lady. Anyway, Only Fools and Horses. Yeah, no. Darling Buds of May, and also a bit of a do. And I think that had a hell of a cast. It had Stephanie Cole and Tim Wilkin, who could have had a show of their own. And it had Nicola Paget and Gwen Tailor. And I think David realised there were, because he went on, the only time I slightly fell out with him, I was talking about comedy. He said, you playing comedy? And I said, well, oh, he said, you're not bad in this. I said, listen, I'd stand more chance of playing Bellboy than you would playing Noel Coward. I've played Noel Coward, but then it was okay. And I'm still friends with this, and he put me up for quite a few things, which I couldn't do. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I heard he's very giving, and on Only Fools he would bring in guest players and make them part of the team for for however long they were on the show.
Sorry.
Just that David Jayston would bring people, into the circle, that would very much include people who were filming episodes.
Yes, I know he put a lot of people up for a lot of parts. Alec Guinness used to do that, actually, but he would never admit it. Tinker Tailor, he put up, including me, I think 4 or 5 people. He wouldn't admit it. He said, well, quite a good actor, Michael. The producers wanted to do it.
Excellent. Have we got any more questions? No? Okay. Let's go on to the Doctor Who of it all. So, you played Valeyard, of course, one of the Doctors, and it seemed like such a pivotal series. It was kind of sink or swim for Doctor Who at the time.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this quite a few times. I know you probably, some of you might be too young to know what happened, but Lord Grade and Powell didn't like it. They thought it was getting a bit old-fashioned, and they didn't like the scripts. And in fact, I told Colin because I met Lord Grade and I like him a lot, and I like Colin a lot. So I said, Grade's got a point. Not at the time, I didn't, because I thought it was disgusting that there were so many arguments going on. They wanted a Doctor Who could have finished, you know.
Yeah. Well, it got cancelled just before that.
There were rubbish going on all the time. I couldn't do anything because I was just an actor in it. But the Colin Baker and John Nathan Turner and was fantastic about it. He had these battles all the time. But you see, my character in that, the trial of a Time Lord, was, of course, it's the trial of Doctor Who.
Yes. Yeah.
But then the great Doctor Who fans got together and said, no, please don't do this. I don't think Grade understood it. I don't think he liked the show at all.
No.
I asked him actually, he said, Powell was the worst actually. And I'd worked with him, he was the producer on Dick and Tailor. I'd worked with him and I liked him a lot. He didn't talk to me on Doctor Who. I met him on John le Carré's memorial service the other day. Well, 6 months ago. And a lot of people asked me why I didn't do Smiley's People. It was because the first director, Alec Guinness, used to look at directors and find out whether they were any good or not. He didn't like this particular director because he found out that the director had been a bit of a used to get babies to cry by putting pins in them, and the girls he was having affairs with. So he said, I don't want that director. He'd signed the contract. They had to pay him off. The director got a bit upset about this and managed to get hold of Alec Guinness's phone number and rang him up. And Guinness said, why have I got the sack? Why have you sacked me? Well, I'll tell you this, and this is absolute truth, because Guinness told me this and somebody else did. He said, I've heard you're a bit of a shit. I don't like working with shits. Well, that suffice. Put the phone down. Now, in between all this time, Powell said, why isn't my agent, who was one of the great agents, Julian Belford, said, you've Smiley's People, you've been offered. I said, yeah, but he said, there's no script, we don't know who's directing, one director's been sacked, and so it went on and on and on, by which time I was offered The Sound of Music with Petula Clark. And I thought, well, I so accepted that, and Guinness was marvellous about it. He sent me a thing on the first night of the Sound of Music, with champagne and smoked salmon and saying, we're missing you here at the circus and all that kind of thing. But Powell couldn't understand it. And he went on, if the second director had done it, I would have done Smiley's People and wouldn't have done The Sound of Music because they would have got somebody else for that. So I was lucky actually, I loved Sound of Music. I was in it for a year and 2 months and made a lot of money. And loved Petula's coming up for 90, I think. Right. Oh God, doesn't time fly when you're having fun?
Can you tell us a bit about playing The Sound of Music? That sounds amazing. Sound of Music. What were you playing?
Well, I mean, it was such a long time ago, and some of it is on. Some of the songs are on YouTube or something, but I'll tell you, there was a lovely actor called John Bennett who was in it, he was a very good actor. You wouldn't know him, you're far too young. But he was, and Honor Blackman was in it, and Petula, of course. There was one performance, Petula was a terrible sort of, shall we say, a corpser. She used to laugh a lot, so I had to, because I like making people laugh on stage sometimes. She was terrible. Anyway, John, this particular night, I don't know what had happened. He looked, I said, what's the matter with John? He said, oh, he's been ringing up, making phone calls to his agent, something's gone wrong with his wife, the whole thing. So he came on in this scene and he was supposed to say, Georg, I think George, there were bells all the way around the Apollo Victoria Theatre, bells chiming. Is there he was supposed to say, is there a cathedral round here? And I said, no, that's our Abbey, Nomberg Abbey. Oh, this particular night, he said, Georg, is there a telephone round here? Is the bell there? I said, no, that's our Abbey. He said, like that, you can't have living musicals. Instead of sort of accepting it, because the band was singing off with Petula coming on, I could see Petula go in the wings. Anyway, he then said, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I meant, was there an abbey round here?" I said, "I've already said it was an abbey." He said, "No, I meant." He went on and on. I said, "But be quiet, whatever his name was." Petula comes on. I have to sing. I must have had a wicked childhood. I must have had a. And that night, it was matinee. There were loads of people from Blackpool come, thousands of them. And it held the record, still holds the record for the most audience figures in a fortnight. Anyway, now you can get away with saying lines when you want to laugh, but you can't do it when you're singing. But she says and she kept it. I mean, she kept the tune, but you could tell that something was going on. She was bursting. Anyway, that Petula always after the show signed everything. Even if it were 50, 60 people, she'd sign everything. And that particular night, somebody said to me, Petula, when she sang, I must have had a wicked childhood. Oh, it was wonderful. You didn't know whether she was laughing or crying.